Hey, big head.
So, like I said earlier, in 2011, you lose in the semifinals. Same year, Stockton was voted the most miserable city according to Forbes magazine. Then in
Yeah.
2012, you lose again at BMV. Same year, Stockton files for bankruptcy. Then in 2013, 2015, your teams take just like a bit of a dip. What was all going through your mind mentally as these years was going on?
Um, when we did the bankruptcy poem, because nobody wanted to do the bankruptcy poem.
Mm-hmm. I was off the team at that year. Just to help the reminder.
Nobody wanted to do the bankruptcy poem, and I was insistent because some poems and concepts I will assign. No, we're doing this because
right.
I know the level of conceptualization that you need at B&V and the kind of stretching that needs to happen. And so the bankruptcy poem was important because Stockton was making history and we needed the youth point of view. And that year was when Center for Investigative Reporting was present. And they saw us do the bankruptcy piece in semis and said, we need to follow these kids. And that's how Broken City Poets came about, the documentary.
Okay.
And again, we didn't win, but we ended up being the subject of a documentary that toured the country.
It's
and
that
won prizes at film festivals. 12 was 12 was such a fun year because we had This Teen Looks Deep, which nobody could get through with a straight face in practice because it was us calling out ourselves and everybody else for the cliches that they put on stage. And Daisy had the AIDS poem, which is the darkest thing we've ever put up. And we just had a great menu. And then we did the piece with Amon and Genesis, which brought everybody to tears. It was just such good sets, such good executions. And then the next year, we literally fell off a cliff in terms of getting people to commit to writing and execution and work ethic. And so that was probably the poorest finish that we had ever had. But there were still strong pieces. And then when we got back to Philly, then we're starting to regain our footing because now we've got Anthony on the team and we had Karina Berger on the team and they were doing some very literate, very cultural, some powerful pieces. And so then we began to regain our stature at B&V because we've always been known as strong storytellers and original thinkers. Even though we have to beat ourselves up. I think the thing that was missing with teams after your generation is the wolf cubness.
Everybody was alpha,
Yeah, and we didn't always have alphas like that.
Right.
And you guys were all alphas in the sense that you weren't afraid to snarl and growl at each other. And then everybody cuddle up and then we're going to spit some poems now.
Everybody played a role, Daisy was the crybaby of the team. I was the guy who always wanted to quit. Alyssa was the girl who was just like, well, whatever, I don't got nothing else to do, so I'm gonna just do this poem. So everybody played a role, and it worked. It all worked.
It all worked. People see Daisy Mays now, and they don't realize how freaking Dr. Seuss she was when she first started.
Yeah, very rhymey, very rhymey.
She was so Dr. Seuss.
Smart though, but very rappy MC-ish. And I think most people when they first hear poetry, they think it's like that. It's rhyming, and I found out pretty soon that if you're so focused on making the next line rhyme, it's going to take away from the story. It's not going to be as strong because now you kind of got to steer it away from where you really want to go to make the next line rhyme. And it's just kind of choppy.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I think when people see videos from you all and they see the level.
We didn't burn those yet?
No, we're not. Not never.
Oh, man.
Not never. Like when you contrast something as grimy as AIDS or as brilliant as Just Friends and as elegant as Hamza's Butterflies, and then people see that and think, oh, well, they just naturally do that. And I have to go, oh, no. That's them at the top of the training.
In 2016, you were named Stockton's Poet Laureate. 2015, you was named Stockton Poet Laureate. How did you take the announcement? Was it an overwhelming feeling? Did you feel like you have accomplished? Was this one of your biggest accomplishments in, to date? Would you say that?
Yeah. I didn't expect it. I had done it because the kids had called me out and said, you always tell us to go for something improbable and you should do it too. And I was like, oh, now you listen to me. And I had done it just to say, watch me go through the process, because there were already people from the organization that were applying. And they said, we keep hearing your name, so we're happy that you applied because we'd like to hear from you. And I had told the Arts Commission that you're going to have a great poet laureate no matter who you get. I'd like to do it. But if I don't, the work that I'm doing, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Right. Because this is basically an extension of what I do anyway. So I can do this as poet laureate, or I can do this as executive director. I'm still going to do this thing. And if you want someone that's just going to go rah, rah Stockton, I'm definitely not the one. And with that, I left saying, okay, well, I blew that. So I was completely surprised when they called me and said, we'd like you to be our first poet laureate.
Wow. And what kind of responsibilities does that job hold?
Contractually, they want you to do 6 performances a year. I have never done less than 50. And
you're at every event pretty much, Pretty
much. And they want you to elevate poetry in the city of Stockton and bring poetry to new audiences and work with young people and create themed poems for certain occasions. So like I'll do Transgender Day of Remembrance. I will do MLK. I will do Black Family Day. So there will be poems that they'll ask me to do. One of the first ones I got to do was an inaugural poem for Michael Tubbs when he was elected mayor. And then the first thing I was tasked to do was to go with Brandon and I went to Denver with Stockton's delegation because Michael wanted us to bring back the All-American City Award. And when he called me, I said, Michael, if you put me on this squad, you know what I'm doing. I said, it's going to be a poem. It's not no bells, no whistles, no costumes, no music, no signs. We are going to do spoken word. We're going to tell Stockton's story. It's going to be multicultural. We're going to be dope, and we will come back with it, but it's going to be poetry. And he was like, bet. And that's what we did.
That's amazing. Well, we all know the higher you are, the greater the fall. And in August 2019, you lost somebody very important to you, your mother. She passed away due to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, I believe, which is kind of like a lung disease that blocks the airway, correct?
COPD and dementia. She had Lewy body dementia.
Tell me what you guys' relationship was like and what type of everlasting impact she left on you.
It was always complicated. My mother was, like I said, I was her only. and she was a prodigy. And because she had me so young, I interrupted several of her pursuits. She was a classically trained pianist. She was a sculptor. She was a fashion designer. And she was an athlete. She played with Althea Gibson on Compton courts before Richard Williams ever took the Williams kids out there. And so she was always pushing me. When I showed promise in those areas, she would jump on me, and I would see that look in her eye and go, no. I'm not doing that because you want me to do that to be a little you. Not
she want to live vicariously through you, pretty much.
Yeah. And so there were times when she was verbally and emotionally abusive. I know I was a caretaker at several points in her life. Even as a kid, like 8 and 9, I was in a caretaking counseling kind of role. And in my 20s, I was doing that. And then as she aged, she loved me, but sometimes she was monstrous. And it turned out that she was actually kind of abusive towards both of my daughters, which I did not find out until much later. And it made it very difficult to be her caretaker towards the end, as I found out some of the things that she had done to my own daughters. And dementia will it will fundamentally change a person's personality. And some people will say it will reveal who you really are. And as she got just mean and evil, I had made a promise to her that she could stay with me till her very last day. Promise I kept. But there were times when, and especially because I was the sole caretaker, there was nobody else. So it was me 24/7, caring for her as she declined and going through the deterioration of her personality, where she would just flip out on me. And I'm going, listen, what we not going to do today. And I hold up caretakers in the highest regard, because
right. I do too.
That's not
it's tough. It's tough.
But it was hard watching such a primary force crumble from the inside out. I've yet to completely write it down. I'm writing poems about that in pieces as I process it. But the night before she died, I was holding her hand, and the last thing I told her at 1 that morning was, I love you. And her hand, I said, I'll see you in the morning. And her hand kind of squeezed mine. And then she died at around 7:30 that morning. And so the feeling of going from daughter to elder in a moment is a very fundamental transition. But there is a relief that I did the thing that I said I was going to do, even though it was an uphill climb a lot of times. And I do have regrets about not being more patient and more forgiving. But everybody around me, and even the nurses, said, no one could have asked you to do more. You were such a good daughter and a good caretaker. I know that I did the thing I said I was going to do.